Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome everyone out here to Jefferson College. For anyone that just showed up, what a magnificent sunset. I'm telling you, it's like this every day here at Jefferson College. I know I majored in sunsets. I went to college here. I absolutely loved it. The teachers really didn't like me that much. I slept quite a bit in class, and I had 3 pillows and an oscillating fan, so it just was not very conducive to higher learning. I got to save some of these for later. All right. So on behalf of Jefferson County Growth Association and our sponsors, Eagle Bank, First State Community Bank, Bank of Bloomsdale, Doe Run, and Govro Land Services, we are doing the Meet the Candidate. We have a lot of candidates here. And to start things off, we're going to be with the 115th District. Neither one of these candidates are an incumbent. And am I right? Yes, so they are both running for office for the first time. I know we're very excited to hear what they have to say. We're going to welcome up first Miss Elaine Freeman Gannon.
Well, I went to Jefferson College also, and I absolutely loved it. Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to tell you about myself and why I am seeking to be representative for District 115. I was born and raised in Bismarck, Missouri. My father worked some 30 years in the ore and lead mines in the St. Francis and Iron counties. My mother was a homemaker, and she worked part-time cleaning a bank. Through their daily lives, I developed a value system which includes faith, compassion, honesty, loyalty, persistence, and I thank God that they respected the sanctity of life when the 11th child was born. They loved me equal to all 10 children that preceded me. I do not remember my parents ever mentioning the word conservative, but they were conservative with their money and their politics. Mom's adult life was dedicated to raising 11 children and stretching the dollar as far as it would go. My dad loved to fish and hunt wild game. Having a gun in our house was normal and was often what kept food on our table. I graduated from Southeast Missouri State University in 1975. I spent my entire professional career in the DeSoto School District. I taught and coached for 32 years. My husband Dennis and I have been married 36 years and live in the DeSoto area. We have 2 grown children, Andrew and Jason. My desire to run for state representative is based on a desire to continue my service to our community. I have learned quickly that I am not a seasoned politician, and I'm not going to Jefferson City to begin a career in public service for myself. But I want to represent the people of District 115. I do not have all the answers to issues facing our state and nation, but I am certainly going to listen and learn and make sound decisions for our state. As I have traveled the district, I have heard from many people, and they shared with me their concerns over jobs, education, preservation of our rights, strong support of our military, and the importance of protecting the right to life. As a state representative, I will work to make sure our laws encourage businesses to create long-term jobs in our state. And equally as important is to make sure we do not pass laws that will slow business development. Building infrastructure is important, but we must become a state that welcomes companies that create jobs and become a state that manufacturers want to relocate to. The free market drives the development of creating jobs and growth. Also, we need to make sure our farmers and ranchers continue to be some of our most viable small businesses. I will work to ensure funding for education at all levels. We need to focus on hiring outstanding teachers, keep our class sizes small, and provide programs for at-risk students. We have to realize that college isn't for everyone, so there is a need to support vocational schools to prepare students towards a job-ready future. With an educated workforce, manufacturers and industries will see Missouri as a prime state to work. With the loss of many manufacturing jobs in Missouri, we need to make sure all skilled workers who have lost jobs have access to retraining. Preservation of our rights and prevention of our government from meddling in the life of my family and in my home will guide my work in Jefferson City. The right to keep and bear arms in my family has been an issue that I will defend. I have seen firsthand that the guns in my dad's closet would provide a feeling of safety as well as put food on our table. I admire and support the men and women of our nation who every second of their lives defend the opportunity that you and I have to be here in this place at this time to discuss the direction and future of our state and country. I am proud to be married to a man that for 20 years was prepared to do the same and is now retired from the Army National Guard. I will support the men and women of our military. The right to life is important to me. As I mentioned earlier, I'm from a large family. I assure you, none of my siblings would have been happy if Mom and Dad would have made the decision that 10 children were enough and would not be adding another life to our family. You cannot legislate what is in the mind of a young expecting mother. They need to be given hope and support to value the life they carry. Finally, I want the voters of the 115th District to know this about me. I will work and study hard to be a responsible representative in Jefferson City. I am a good listener, and I will do my best to help the people of our district. I will be truthful, and the voters of the 115th District can trust me. Thank you.
All right, I want to thank a few more of our sponsors. Comtree, Jefferson County Labor Club, United we stand, divided we beg. I think that's a great motto that we can all use here in Jefferson County. If everybody spent just a little bit more money in Jefferson County, we would solve all of our own problems. Bob Kister, attorney at law, and of course, Metro Office Supply, Hallmark cards and gifts. Up next is, for the 115th District, is Mr. Rich McCain.
Good evening. My name is Rich McCain. I'm the Democratic candidate for state representative in the 115th District. My wife Stacy and I live in the DeSoto area. We have 2 children. My daughter Claire is 2 years old. My son Taylor is 14 and he's a freshman in DeSoto High School. In 1999, I earned an Associate of Arts degree from here at Jefferson College. And in 2001, I completed a Bachelor of Science degree from Missouri Baptist University in St. Louis County. I have a double major in business administration and business management. After college, I followed my family into the real estate business. Stacy and I run a real estate management and development company in Jefferson County. We own several townhouses and duplexes that we lease yearly. We also maintain and repair many bank-owned properties to make them presentable and safe to show. We've done a lot of construction and remodeling work in the DeSoto area. My public service career started at DeSoto City Hall. I've served the community as a commissioner and as an elected city councilman for many years. As a councilman, some of my responsibilities have been to set policy, to review ordinances, to appropriate money to operate the city, and to approve the city's annual budget, which averages around $9 million. I've also served as the vice president of the Get Healthy DeSoto's board of directors. That's a local nonprofit with over 2,500 members and over 100 volunteers. That's also the parent organization of our local farmers market in DeSoto. Some of the positions I believe in on statewide issues are that I will support citizens' right to bear arms, I will support concealed carry, and I will support the Castle Doctrine. I will support labor and oppose right to work. I believe right to work laws are the most threatening legislation for working families being considered in Jefferson City. I will support raising the minimum wage. I will support traditional marriage, and I will support Missouri's strong laws regarding abortion. My campaign has been endorsed by Missouri Right to Life. My legislative focus will be on jobs, education, and transportation. First, transportation investments in infrastructure are a direct investment in our future. I will support funding that ensures our infrastructure keeps up with the demands of a growing district. Second, education. I will support educators so they're able to prepare our children for the jobs of tomorrow. I'll start by supporting the foundation formula. You know, the legislature's definition of that formula is that it's the minimum amount of money required to provide an adequate education for our children. It's not acceptable that we're not funding the formula. I will also support funding for higher education to keep tuition affordable for all young people, the same as it was for me whenever I went to college here. I believe that the ballpark village projects of the state are great. But last year in Missouri, $629.5 million worth of tax credits were redeemed here. At the same time, we cut funding to education. It's time for the legislature to reevaluate its priorities and focus on the things that have made us great here in Missouri: our educated workforce and our ability to get our goods and services to market. Last, on jobs, I would love to have the opportunity to work with Jay Nixon to create a positive climate for entrepreneurs, and I have a voting record that supports that. Listen, entrepreneurs and existing businessmen are the people that create jobs, not politicians. It's our job as politicians to look for opportunities where they exist and pursue those opportunities. That's why, as a DeSoto City Councilman, I voted to support the port project along the Mississippi River. I believe that project is our best opportunity to add living wage jobs in our area. And as a state representative, I will support the port. We should also take a good look at the existing businessmen who've already invested here. In DeSoto, we have a unique relationship with Union Pacific. We look at each other as partners, not as if one is a subordinate to the other. I would love to have the opportunity to build that kind of relationship with the other employers in this district, that they would know that they have a state representative that's on their side and wants to work with them. I am the best qualified candidate to serve you because I have local government experience, because I've learned many of the skills as a businessman and as a councilman that I will need to be an effective state representative and a legislator, because Stacy and I have traveled this district talking with thousands of you about the issues facing Missouri at your dining room tables and on your front porches in order to learn more about what your priorities are for us going forward. Because I will not seek the Democratic answer or the Republican answer, but the right answer for the people of Missouri. And because with your support, I will work with Jay Nixon to bridge the partisan divide in Jefferson City and focus on achieving results here at home. Thank you.
All right, next up is Becky Ruth and TJ McKenna. We want to talk about this Saturday here at Jefferson College, especially for the people who like listening on the radio, watching on JCTV. If you haven't been out to this college in a while, this is an excellent opportunity. This Saturday, we're having a Motorama show. We've got tractors, we've got big trucks, we've got cars. There's been several members of the community that have worked very, very hard on this. Weather permitting, it should be absolutely phenomenal. It's a family event. You can bring the kids, your grandparents, whatever. It'd be just a really, really nice event. We also like to talk about joining JC, Jefferson County growth. What we've got is, for the people listening on the radio, watching on JCTV, call, look for us online, and if you join, we're doing 3 months for free. So it's a pretty good deal. So up first is, I guess this is going to be the Democrat, TJ McKenna.
Good evening. My name is TJ McKenna, and I'm the Democrat candidate for state representative in the 114th District. The 114th District encompasses Crystal City, Festus, Herculaneum, Peevely, as well as surrounding unincorporated areas. The seat was held by my good friend and campaign teammate, Representative Ron Casey. I live in Crystal City, and I'm a 2007 graduate from the University of Missouri-Columbia with a degree in political science. Currently, I work as a field appraiser for Terry Resch at the County Assessor's Office. Community service has been a cornerstone of my family's values for generations. My late grandfather served as a state representative for the city of St. Louis before fighting in World War II. He instilled the belief in his 10 children that you should give back to the community more than you take from it. My entire life, I've watched as so many members of my family have given back to their community through hard work and compassion. My sister Robin teaches in the city. I have a cousin who works for the developmentally disabled. I have 2 more cousins who are educators. My Uncle Bill has been a teacher, a senator, and has served on many volunteer boards and committees. His son, and my cousin Ryan, has followed in his footsteps and currently serves as our state senator and has served on many of those volunteer boards. Their desire to give back to the community is also valued to me. I volunteer with various organizations such as the Habitat for Humanity program as well as the Jefferson County Rescue Mission. I joined the local Elks this summer, and I'm anticipating working with their charitable endeavors. I am running on issues I believe are important to all the folks of this district: economic development, infrastructure, education, opportunity, and protecting our most vulnerable citizens. We also need to support our veterans who have sacrificed so much to protect our freedoms. We need to take care of our senior citizens who have paved the way to give my generation a great opportunity to succeed in life. And finally, we need to protect those who are less fortunate than us. If I am fortunate enough to be elected, I will make the Jefferson County Port and the good jobs it brings to this county a reality. By working with our state, county, city officials, as well as people in the Economic Development Corporation, we can bring private investment here and make this goal a reality. I will work to bring money to our county for public sewers, water, and highway improvements, all which are necessary for economic growth. I would like to make Highway 55 6 lanes all the way down to Highway 67. We also need new lanes and an interchange at Highway 67 and CC to alleviate this current bottleneck we are currently experiencing. We need additional turn lanes on Highway 61 to access our wonderful highway so everybody can get there safe and sound. I will work to bring more money to our schools and college. We must have an educated and trained local workforce if we are going to bring private investment and good-paying jobs we need here in this county. If we can do these things, we can create opportunities for all citizens. In January 2010, Governor Nixon launched the Show Me Heroes initiative, which was created to help veterans ease back into society with meaningful careers. To date, over 2,300 employers have signed the pledge, resulting in over 2,000 jobs for veterans. I will work to continue to expand this program. We need to watch out for our seniors and see that they have the health and medical care they deserve and are available to them. We need to monitor nursing homes and long-term care facilities to see that they provide dignified care for those who depend upon them. Finally, we need to help those whose circumstances have made them less fortunate than us. Unfortunately, we do not all have the same opportunities to be successful. We need to see that everyone has access to the basic things we all expect in life: food, shelter, care, and the opportunity to help ourselves through hard work. I'm a proud American, and I'm a proud Democrat. I am proud of our country for the things it stands for. We have always helped each other out and have worked together to make our country a better place to live. In these challenging times, we need office holders with an eye for the future, new ideas, and who can bring people together for common goals. If I'm proud to be elected, I pledge to work every hour of every day as hard as I can to fulfill the ideals of my late grandfather, to give back to the community and be thankful for the gifts we have been given. Thank you, and I ask for your support on November 6th.
You know, one thing I'd like to mention, I know a lot of people have smartphones. Feel free to take pictures and videos, and you can upload stuff on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Foursquare and all that other stuff. But if you could turn the volume down so that if you do get a phone call, that it doesn't kind of mess everybody up. All right. So up next for the 114th District, Miss Becky Ruth.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the JCGA, the KJFF radio station, and Jefferson College, as well as all the other sponsors for presenting this tonight and giving us the opportunity to speak. I have a few things written down, but I didn't give a prepared speech because I want to speak to you from my heart tonight, so that way you know who I am, who Becky Ruth really is. I grew up in Festus. I went to Festus High School, but my family has very long, deep roots in this community. Both of my grandfathers worked at PPG in Crystal City. One of them worked in the maintenance department and actually helped to plant some of the trees along Mississippi Avenue in Crystal City. The American Legion Post 253, it's named Peebles Von Weidman. The Peebles in that name was my great uncle. So we have a long history here in this community. And I have learned the value of the military. My father was in World War II. I understand what it's like for our men and women putting their lives on the line every day, and I value the service that they have given to their country and our veterans. I also went to College of the Ozarks, which is called School of the Ozarks at the time that I went. Its nickname is Hard Work U. I earned my Bachelor of Arts degree there in education. It was called Hard Work U for a reason, because every student that goes to college there works their way through. I learned the value of hard work, perseverance, and character. I carried on those values into the classroom. I'm a 25-year veteran of public education. I retired from teaching in the Festus Senior High School in 2011. I understand how important education is to our community. I understand that we need to fully fund our foundation formula, something we have not been able to do yet. I understand that we also need to bring local control back to our school districts and get the government out of the way. Our teachers need to be able to go into the classroom and do what they do best, teach our children, not teach them how to simply fill out a bubble sheet for an end-of-the-year test. We need to get back to letting our teachers do exactly what they do best. With a well-educated workforce, we're going to continue to attract jobs and industry to Jefferson County. One of those things is bringing our Jefferson County ports online. That's going to bring more than 6,000 jobs to this area. Whenever I've been out there knocking on thousands of doors, I always ask people, what are the issues that you're concerned about? Because that's what this office is about. It's about people and representing them. And of course, the number one priority right now is the economy and jobs. So we have to do everything we can to create jobs in Jefferson County and put Jefferson County back to work. I'm very concerned about our community. I have a passion to serve. I have a long history of serving our community as a teacher and also with volunteer organizations. I sit on the Missouri State Teachers Foundation Board, which supplies grants for teachers so they can get the things in their classrooms that they need. I have volunteered with Habitat for Humanity. I've been a Key Club sponsor, a sponsor of the Future Teachers of America. I know that I can be a strong voice in Jefferson City and bring representation back to the people. So I ask you for your vote on November the 6th. Please elect Becky Ruth as your next state representative for District 114. Thank you.
All right, so next up is going to be Dan Smith and Jeff Rorda. Now, for everybody watching this on JCTV, which is Jefferson College Television, and everyone listening to it on KJFF, we do have a whole lot of people standing up. If anyone that is standing up would like to take this opportunity to find a seat, this would be a very good time. Again, thank you very much for coming out here. Jefferson College is probably the single greatest asset that we have in our entire county. A lot of us went to school. Some of us took continuing education. A lot of us sent our kids out here. If it's been a while since you've been here, come on out, especially this Saturday whenever we have the Motorama car show, tractor show, monster truck show. So up next is from the 113th District, Mr. Jeff Rorda.
Good evening. Allow me to introduce myself. My name's Jeff Rorda, and I'm not your typical candidate. I don't consider myself to be a politician. I consider myself to be a public servant. Whether that was my service to the community as a volunteer firefighter, as a police officer, serving on our ambulance and fire board, or serving as a state representative for 6 years, I have always considered myself to be a public servant. Serve because I believe with all my heart that we can make our community a better place, a safer place. I've fought fires in our neighbors' burning homes. I've answered the call when frightened citizens have heard a prowler at their back door. I've done over 100 undercover drug buys. But the thing I'm most proud of is the work that I did in the Missouri House to keep our families safe. I fought to pass tougher laws that have curbed methamphetamine use in our county. I negotiated an increase in state funding so that our cyber crimes task forces to keep the internet safe for our children from would-be predators would be fully funded. And I worked across party lines to pass Jessica's Law, premier law in the nation that puts child molesters, repeat offenders, behind bars for 25 years with no chance of parole. These are the things that a public servant can do for our community in the legislature. With my opponent, you get a politician, and yes, business as usual. More of the same gridlock and partisan rancor that has defined the Missouri House for the last 2 years. That's why I'm running. My last accomplishment during my service in the House was working with Democratic Governor Jay Nixon and Republican Speaker of the House Steve Tilley to pass the Manufacturing Jobs Act, which put thousands of Missourians back to work. That's how government's supposed to work. People tell me every day that they're tired of the economy and jobs being used as a partisan wedge issue. We can do great things when we work together as public servants, as people who put our communities first, not as politicians that put party before people. The choice in this race is clear. You have a public servant with a history of fighting crime running against a politician fighting his criminal history. The people of this community deserve better. They deserve a representative that will fight for their interest, not for their own party. They deserve a representative who believes we can do more to make our communities safer, our public schools stronger, our seniors secure, our colleges affordable, and our economy vibrant. Those are the values that I will bring to this office. You don't have to take my word for it. I have a proven record of public service that you can rely on. I ask for your vote on November 6th, and I pledge to you that what you see is what you get. A public servant who loves his community. Thank you.
All right, up next for the 113th District is the Republican Dan Smith.
First of all, I'd like to thank Jefferson College and the rest of the sponsors for putting this event on tonight. And I'd also like to thank everyone for coming out tonight and getting involved. That's very important in our community these days, to get people involved in their government, and that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm Dan Smith. I'm running for state representative in the 113th District, which is part of Arnold, the eastern part of Imperial, and the northern part of Barnhart. I'm married to a wonderful lady right here, my wife. In fact, last month we had our 40th wedding anniversary. We have a great daughter who teaches at Fox High School. She's been there for 12 years now, and we have 7 grandchildren. I was born in Missouri, and I've lived here my entire life, except for a short period of time, 6 years, when I was serving my country in the U.S. military as a medic in the Air Force. I moved to Arnold after serving in the military, where we've lived here now for almost 33 years. I've worked 20-plus years in banking, finance, insurance, so I certainly know, what it takes to get business and get business going again. And I decided after working 20-plus years in the banking and finance business that I wanted to work with my hands. So last 11 years, I've worked in building furniture for Build-A-Bear workshops. When my daughter was small, I coached her softball and soccer teams for about 9 years in Arnold. I've been previously appointed to the advisory board of the American Red Cross of Missouri. I'm a member of the Arnold Historical Society. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to get up to Arnold to see their new museum, you ought to get up there because it's a lot of interesting information about our county and about Arnold that you'd be interested in having your children take a look at. Last year, I was appointed to be vice chair of the committee to redistrict Jefferson County's voting districts, which we accomplished by moving less than 1% of the voters and stayed within the guidelines set up by the charter government. I've sponsored many community events, such as the Traveling Vietnam Wall event at Fox High School and the Jefferson County's Got Talent event. My wife and I have sponsored a Fox C6 scholarship for the last 20 years for deserving students. I'm a Vietnam era veteran and an NRA member, and I'm currently endorsed by the NRA in this election. I've been elected and proudly represent Windsor Township, where I currently serve the citizens of that district. And I have also been elected twice in the Fox C6 School District to serve on their board. And I currently serve that community as vice president. Given the honor of representing the good people of the District 113, my priorities will be first, creating an environment that encourages job creation to help jumpstart our economic growth by reducing red tape and burdensome regulations on our small businesses. Second, I will try to reduce out-of-control spending by looking at waste and fraud within our system. Next, I will always protect your Second Amendment rights. I will protect our children, including the unborn. I have received the highest endorsement by Missouri Right to Life in this election, and I believe it's our moral obligation to leave this world a better place for our future generations. Next, I promise to give the people of my district an opportunity to be more involved in and informed by their government. And I will actually go to Jefferson City and vote on the bills that are important for our citizens. Last, I will work on reducing the size of government and the tax burdens on our citizens of Missouri. If you agree with me that we can do better, then I ask for your vote November 6th. Together, we can make a difference. We can make Jefferson County and Missouri a stronger, better place. I would be honored to represent the good people of my district and safeguard their personal freedoms and rights given to them by our Creator under the Constitution. Thank you again for being here tonight. God bless you, our state, and our great nation.
All right, next up is the 112th District, Dan James. Paul couldn't be here tonight. Paul was here last week and mentioned that he couldn't be here. Before I have Dan come up, I would like to have a little shout out to Ryan McKenna back there, our Democratic senator from Missouri. Got his wife. You still only have one kid? One child? All right. Ryan had a great line at an event where his father was at. It was something with changing diapers of his dad and his... Yeah, man, I just don't have it tonight. You know, sometimes the timing is just a little off. Let me go back to the sponsors. We got Eagle Bank, First State Community Bank, Bank of Bloomsdale. There's lots of banks. We need more banks to sponsor stuff. So special thanks to those banks. Doe Run, Governor Land Service, Comtree, Jefferson County Labor Club, Bob Kister, Attorney at Law, and Metro Office Supply. Up next, Mr. Dan James.
Thank you. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I can't have Paul's other 5 minutes? Okay. Well, I was going to be gracious and let Mr. Whelan go first, but obviously he's not here, so someone's got to talk about the 112th District, and I guess that's me. First, I'd like to thank Jefferson College, KJF Radio, Jefferson County Growth Association, all our sponsors for allowing us to come here tonight to speak to the voters of Jefferson County. This is a very important election year, and you need to be informed about who you're voting for and what they stand for. As you heard, my name is Dan James, and I'm the Democratic candidate for state representative in the 112th District. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about myself and why I decided to run for office. My wife Holly and I live in Imperial, just off Seckman Road. We live there with our 3 children who are extraordinary. My oldest daughter, Sydney, who is a sophomore at Windsor High School and is also a junior varsity cheerleader. My youngest daughter, Zoe, who's in 8th grade, and also is branching out and playing ice hockey for the St. Louis Cyclones girls hockey team. And my son, Dan Jr., who we call Danny, who is 5 years old, and he too is following in his father's footsteps and playing hockey for the Merrimack Sharks. My wife and I have been married for 24 years. If you've ever been married for that long, you know you're never going to get things the way you want them. And so that's why I'm running for office, because we cannot always have things the way we want it. But we try to work for what is best for everybody. And that's what we're here for. My background is in law. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney. I practice with the firm of Fisher and Byrne in St. Louis and Soulard. We represent defendants charged in criminal cases throughout the state. Before that, I had the pleasure of serving as Jefferson County's first municipal court prosecutor for 4 years. And I took a great pleasure and pride in serving in that office. And prior to that, I served as assistant prosecuting attorney in Washington County in Potosi. In my career, I have protected individuals whose rights have been threatened, and also have prosecuted individuals who threatened other people's rights. I spent 10 years in public service and would not trade any of that for the world. When I began thinking about running for this office, I looked at the problems we were having here at home and at Jefferson City, especially the gridlock in the Capitol and trying to get things done for the people of Missouri. I decided that we need people who could sit down, resolve the issues, and move us forward. As an attorney, I'm always looking towards the future to see if the advice that I give my clients and their decisions whether to follow it is the best for them and best for us. It's this kind of forward thinking that we need to resolve these issues in Jefferson City and bring us together as a state, not as Democrats or Republicans. While I know this is an idealistic approach to politics, I also know you can't, as a state representative, you can't please everybody with every decision you make. There's a saying in criminal law that if both sides are not happy at the end of the negotiation, it must be a fair outcome. What is difficult in those cases is trying to decide what issues to push and what issues can be compromised. It's my 20 years experience in practicing law that gives me the ability to make these decisions. In the end, I believe that a state representative's decisions must be based on what is best for the people of their district. That being said, let me tell you about some of the issues that I feel are extremely important in this election. First of all, education. This is a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. I believe that we need to make it a priority that our public education system is fully funded so our children get a high-quality education and can compete in the global market. And I will also fight against school vouchers that only serve to deteriorate our school system. I also believe we need to take care of those people who give their time and talents to educate our children. We need to strengthen teacher tenure rules so school districts cannot remove teachers just to save a few dollars on a budget. As I said, education is a very important issue to me, and there's several reasons why. First and foremost is my mother. My mother taught for 30 years in the classroom. She retired from the Pattonville School District and was teaching children for as long as I can remember. Second, my grandmother, who passed away in 2006, was also a teacher. She worked in a small town called California, Missouri, up by Jeff City. And she also worked to educate children. And finally, my wife was also a teacher. I'm out of time already? Are you sure your clock's right? Finally, one of the most important issues that I think is extremely important is the fact that a representative needs to represent their district. That person needs to go to Jefferson City and vote for what is right for the district. If you looked at what my opponent did in 2011, after the people of Jefferson County overwhelmingly passed Proposition B, the puppy mill initiative, voted to overturn the will of the people, that is wrong. We need someone to go up there, represent the people of the district, be from the district, and take care of the district. So I'm asking you to tell Mr. Whelan on November 6th, you're not going to stand for that kind of activity anymore. Vote Dan James for state representative for the 112th district. Thank you.
All right, up next, John McCarty and Michael Frame and Derek Good. Also want to remind everybody about our sponsors. One of our sponsors is Doe Run. As many of you know, we are trying to get the port. And Dan Govro, who is the president of Jefferson Growth Association, has worked very, very hard on getting that done. We also have got the airport there in Festus Crystal City. It has a new owner, and they offer skydiving. And if you go to the Metro Supply and Hallmark, they have these wonderful skydiving cards. And I think that's Tim McGraw. I'm not positive. Anyway, up next from the Shameless, yeah, that's Garth Brooks, I think, is for the 111th District, Mr. Michael Frame.
Good evening. My name is Michael Frame, and on Tuesday, November 6th, my name will be listed on your ballot for the office of State Representative. Tonight, as clearly as I can, I'd like to tell you who I am, what I believe in, and why this election is so important. My family has been a part of our county for over 100 years. In fact, one of our local American Legion halls still bears the name of my great-granduncle, who was one of the early residents of our county, and a man who gave his life defending our nation. Now, like my great-granduncle and so many others in my family, I also served my country. I enlisted in the United States Navy and was stationed aboard the aircraft carrier USS John F. Kennedy. Now, during my tenure aboard Kennedy, my leadership abilities were recognized on several occasions, but I'm especially proud of receiving presidential commendations from then President Ronald Reagan upon being selected Military Leader of the Year in 1986. I believe that each of us has a duty to pay something back for the privilege of growing up and living in the greatest country in the history of the world. For myself, the military was a great way to do that, but it wasn't the end to it. After being honorably discharged from the U.S. Navy, I came home to Jefferson County, and over the next 13 years, served on a multitude of school committees, and ultimately as a member of the Board of Education. During that time, I followed in my father's footsteps and continued my employment as a journeyman pipe fitter. Now, that used to mean hard work, but great pay and good benefits. Unfortunately, over the years, the construction industry has suffered right along with the rest of our middle class. So I know what it's like to pray your back doesn't give out because you really need to work the rest of the year. I know what it's like to look out over that economic horizon and see no construction projects planned and wonder how my family is going to make it. Too many of my friends have had to make that long walk to their child's bedroom to tell them that they can no longer afford to live in their home anymore. Folks, it's time we wake up. We have been giving away our wealth by outsourcing American labor for the last 30 years. And to be a great nation, someone has got to create something here. And we as American consumers must support American manufacturing. Obviously, a change should be made within state government. Every state procurement contract should contain a Made in USA and Made in Missouri preference clause because our own tax dollars should not be used to send our jobs overseas. We should pass my bill to eliminate the sales tax on Missouri-made motor vehicles because it will save middle-class families thousands of dollars on a new car purchase, and it will put our auto workers to work right here in Missouri. Our federal government should stop giving tax breaks to corporations who send their factories overseas because it doesn't make sense, and it never did. And we should invest in public education and fully fund the foundation formula. Because if our children are going to compete for tomorrow's jobs, they'll have to be the best skilled, most adaptable, highly trained workforce in the world, and that starts with our local schools. Lastly, someone must begin providing the leadership and tell the truth about why it's so important for our own citizens to buy American-made products. If we can reduce our federal trade deficit by even 20%, that would provide $100 billion in sales to American business with no cost whatsoever to taxpayers, and folks, that means jobs. You know, my campaign has the support of a lot of good people and a lot of great organizations. The National Rifle Association, the Fraternal Order of Police, the Missouri School Principals and Superintendents Association have all joined working families, seniors, and business owners across my district who believe in my candidacy and have endorsed my campaign. One day, when my grandchildren ask what I did with my life, I'll tell them how I served with some of this nation's finest patriots aboard the USS John F. Kennedy. I'll tell them how I had the honor to work with some of the most committed public servants you've ever seen, right there in my local school district. I'll tell them how I stood on the floor of the Missouri House of Representatives and debated the issues of our day with some of the wisest men and women of our state. But mostly, I'd like to talk with them about how when this nation's back was against the wall, my neighbors selected me to go to work with Governor Nixon and to turn things around and provide an environment that's conducive to creating good jobs. I believe in my community, and I believe the better days do lie ahead. I believe most of us want to return our state to a citizen legislature, not send more lawyers to Jefferson City. And if you have a free moment, I'd like you to visit my website. It's at www.frame4thehouse.com. Thank you so much. Good night.
Up next for the 111th District, running as Republican, Mr. Derek Good.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. I can't tell you how important it is to take part in this process. And I am honored to stand here today and tell you that my name is Derek Good, and I'm running to be the next representative in the 111th District of Jefferson County. That includes House Springs, Cedar Hill, the Eureka Pacific areas of Jefferson County, and Dittmer up in the northwest corner. I grew up in Cedar Hill, where I now live with my wife and my 2 daughters. I graduated from Hillsboro High School, and now I practice law at the Thurman Law Firm. And yes, I am asking you to send another lawyer to Jefferson City. And I would tell you that out of, I believe, 160 plus reps last year, there were, I think, 6. And it's important to have the legal education. It's important to have that knowledge, to have worked with the laws, to understand the interaction of laws, to help to pass good laws, and to reform bad laws. This is my first time running for public office, but it is not the first time that I have given my time and my family's time to serve the people of Jefferson County or charitable causes. I currently am one of the representatives for Jefferson County on the Jefferson County Economic Development Corporation. I am very proud of my service with Sunny Hill Inc. And for those of you who don't know, Sunny Hill is an organization that provides assistance to developmentally disabled individuals in the St. Louis area, and we have an excellent camp in Dittmer. In my 6 years on that board, I have seen our budget grow from $6 million a year to $11 million a year, and we now have more than 320 employees. In 2005, my wife and I took over the High Ridge License Office. For those of you from that side of the county, you know it was a disaster. We straightened it up, we changed the attitude, and we're very proud to be serving the county in that office. I'm not saying we're without our challenges there, we still have our issues, but we work very hard to provide good service there. In 2008, I gave over 500 hours to this county, serving as co-chair of the Charter Commission. I work with a 14-member bipartisan commission, and I am extremely proud of the document that we produced that is now the foundation for your county government. I mentioned earlier that I'm an attorney at the Thurman Law Firm. I was hired as a clerk in 2000. At that time, there were 4 attorneys and 5 staff members. We have watched our firm grow to 12 attorneys and 14 staff members. Now, not all of my business ventures have been successful. Several years ago, I helped to start an indoor gun range and a retail gun shop, and it failed. Why would I tell you about my failures? I would tell you this because I have the experience creating jobs, building businesses, and taking the risk necessary to drive economic development. Most everybody agrees, you've heard it tonight from everybody, that jobs and the economy is what has to be our #1 priority. The latest census figures show that the median income in Jefferson County has shrunk by 18% since 2007. We have to find a way to change that trend. There are ways. We have to find ways to make successful projects like the Jefferson County Port. And I look out and I do see construction jobs in our future. I see a port that's going to develop and have 2,000 construction jobs, 1,700 permanent jobs, and that doesn't even talk about the related industrial development that will come with it. Our county is uniquely situated to take advantage of the changes in the Panama Canal and the trade that will come with it. And we need people in Jefferson City that understand that and that are going to fight for our economic development here in Jefferson County. We'll fight to reduce the size of state government, keep bureaucracy out of our way. Our small businesses and entrepreneurs and working families need to be free of the red tape to develop business. We must improve our education system. A skilled workforce is absolutely necessary to bring employers here. They will come to the base. We have to train our children and have them ready to work. We have to upgrade our infrastructure and develop a proactive, comprehensive transportation plan. I will work to protect the values of Jefferson County. I am pro-life. I am endorsed by the Missouri Right to Life, and I'm very proud of that and will continue to help mothers choose life for their children. I am a supporter of our Second Amendment rights, a lifetime member of the NRA, an avid hunter, and a former owner of a gun store. No matter what, I want to leave you with this. This is my community. I'm going to continue to work for it. I'm going to fight for it. I'm not going to go away, and I'm going to continue to be involved. I ask for your support and your vote as the next representative from the 111th District in Jefferson County. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next up will be Sam Como and John McCarty. You know, I've been in this organization since 1995, and I've been probably emceeing this since maybe 1998, maybe 2000. And, you know, we do this a lot. We hear lots of the same things, but in this past 12 years, there's just been this major shift, and it's like I tell everybody, when you drive by all those big warehouses in St. Louis, I mean, they might have places for as many as 18, 20, 30 18-wheelers to back up, and they're all empty. You go to Rams Park, you look at that industrial park, I mean, it's probably 35, 40% empty. You go to the Fenton Industrial Park, it's empty. You go around, all these places are empty, but I'm telling you, virtually none of them are out of business. They've all moved their business overseas. So until organizations like school districts and businesses and churches and schools come up with an actual made in China policy, we can solve a lot of our own problems. We're kind of at a spot right now where people are actually seeking out items that are made in China because it is cheaper. Less quality, we don't care, everything's kind of a disposable, but yet we all sit here and worry about jobs, and we talk about our neighbors being out of work, and on and on and on and on, but we vote every single day with our pocketbook. So how do you vote? And when you vote with your pocketbook, you're not voting Democrat, you're not voting Republican, you're not voting independent, you're not voting anything, you're voting your cold, hard-earned dollars. How do you vote? So next up, oh, I'm not running for nothing. I'm running for more stuff than I'm running for. All right, so next up is the 97th District, Mr. John McCarty.
Thank you, and thank you again to all our sponsors. I appreciate you guys very, very much. It's a great opportunity to be able to speak to all of you and everyone that's watching at home. You know, we've heard a lot of speeches. We'll hear some more. And I've got mine here, and I probably won't stick to it a whole lot. Because really the opportunity that we have here as a state is one that has been talked about by probably every candidate that stepped behind this podium. And it's an opportunity to work in a bipartisan effort. And I stood here 2 years ago, and I told you that that's what I wanted to go to Jeff City and do. And you elected me to do that. And that's exactly what I've done. We have in the room tonight representatives from both sides of the aisle who I've personally worked with, respect very, very highly. Representative Meadows, our Senator Ryan McKenna. When the issues came up about our district that I didn't have answers to, I went to people with knowledge and wisdom, and I listened to them. And I'm not going to stand here tonight and say that I have all the answers. I'll stand here tonight and I'll tell you the same thing that everybody else has told you. I'm a father. I'm a husband of 27 years. I'm an Air Force veteran. I've served you in the Missouri House for 2 years. That's not a long time. But I can tell you that prior to me going there, we didn't get anything accomplished. In the last 2 years, we hadn't got a whole lot accomplished. That's being honest. And if you want honesty, you want integrity, you want compassion, you want conservative values, you want pro-life, you want pro-Second Amendment, I'm asking you to vote for me. I'm not going to promise you I'm always going to get everything right exactly like you want it. But I'll promise you this. I'll work. And I'll work for both sides of the aisle, and I'll work hard. Jobs are a key. Jobs are a key to our economy. Jobs are a key for Jefferson County, and jobs are a key for our state. And the only way, the absolute only way that we're going to fix that problem is to bring business entities and labor entities to the table together to sit down and have the conversation. I'm endorsed by both business and labor. Missouri Chamber of Commerce, Jefferson County Labor Club, Local 110, AFL-CIO, all of these have looked at my record. They've looked at my values, they've looked at who I am, and they've said that John McCarty is the choice. And I appreciate that. I appreciate their trust. I appreciate their concern for our community, and I listen to their voice. And I think that's important. I think that's where we have to be in a community. Whether you're Republican or you're a Democrat, we need people to get past the R's and the D's. And we need to go to Jefferson City, and we need to stand up for the people who voted to put us there. My name's John McCarty. I would appreciate your support in November. God bless you, and God bless the great state of Missouri.
Running as a Democrat for the 97th District, Mr. Sam Como.
Are we having fun yet? I see everybody's out there so excited. My name is Sam Como, and I'm running to become the state representative of the 97th District. As I said in the 2010 election, I will stand by my accomplishments and my voting record. As a former state representative of the 90 District for 4 years, previously ranking member of Job Creation and Economic Development, named by the Speaker of the House to a bipartisan task force to look at economic development issues, appointed by the Governor Nixon to serve on the Tax Credit Review Commission to review the tax credits to see what's working and what isn't working, chaired an advisory committee to create a roadmap for Jefferson County on economic development, worked with the Republican leadership in the House and both in the party to pass the Manufacturing Act of 2010, which, as we heard earlier, is credited for securing over 4,000 jobs in Kansas City at the Ford facility and getting GM to expand their facility in Wentzville. But as some of you know, I lost my election by around 200 votes in 2010. I understand the voter aggravation because I lived through the same thing. I lost my job of 13 years at the Chrysler plant in Fenton without any hopes of it reopening. We had to make the tough family decisions to sell the family home on our terms, not the bank's. And I didn't want any family to go through what my family has over the last 4 years. That is why I fight every day for jobs in Missouri. My opponent in this election is the same gentleman I ran against in 2010. The difference is this time he has a voting record too. I don't blame John for the way he has voted because I believe he saw the 2010 election cycle as a mandate for his Tea Party platform. That is why, if you look at both of our voting records, you will find his Tea Party philosophy and my ability to compromise and get things done for Missouri. Like I said, I'm not criticizing John for his voting decisions, but just pointing out the extreme differences between us, which allows the voters to make informed decisions in the upcoming election. The funny thing is, John criticized me for not doing enough to create jobs. But in the last 2 years, he failed to pass any economic development or job creation bills. I can show you article after article that declared the success of the 2010 Manufacturing Act and how it revamped the auto industry. So moving forward this election year, if elected, I will dust off the multiple reports that were given to my opponent and other elected officials by the task force, the commissions, and the committees that I served, on which received no consideration or action in the last 2 years. These reports will be the backbone of the future legislation that I will offer to move Missouri forward. But my vision for Missouri will not only happen if elected in November. So I stand in front of you today to ask for your vote as the next state representative of the 97th District. My name is Sam Como, and I thank you for the opportunity tonight to speak with you. Thank you.
All right, next up, Joe Fowler Jr. and Gary Romine, if you come on down. You know, while I was sitting there, I was also thinking about, you know, what I had mentioned about a buy China policy. Let's do a buy Jefferson County policy. If somebody is selling something for $1,000 in Jefferson County, and the guy in St. Louis is $999.99. You think we could give the Jefferson County company a penny and buy it locally? Because right now we don't. 1 penny, you will lose the deal. That's how it's done. Until there's a clear policy, 1 penny is what separates a winner and a loser, whether you're in the county or even out of the state. Next up, for Senator of the great state of Missouri, this is replacing Kevin Engler, who is term limited out. So up first is Mr. Joe Fowler Jr.
Okay, I'm not Kevin Engler, so I'm not going to tell you I'm taking credit for whether it's raining or not raining outside or anything else. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody, GCGA, the new terminology, Jefferson College, and all the sponsors. For those of you that don't know me, I was raised in Bloomsdale in St. Genevieve County, and just yesterday, St. Genevieve County celebrated their 200th anniversary as a county in the state of Missouri, one of the first 5 counties. And in case you didn't know, Jefferson County was part of that district, so you're welcome back home to St. Genevieve. I've lived there almost all my life in this district. My wife Carol, and we have 5 kids and 12 grandkids, and I will go through all that. We're recently a small business owner in St. Genevieve about a year ago. I've been a blue-collar worker my entire life. I got still actively involved with Mississippi Lime Company in St. Genevieve. I've been there for 39 years, 40 come February. I've been president of the Steelworkers Local for 22 years. Going to be 23 in January. I guess I can change the numbers. I don't know. I heard everybody talk, but First thing I'd like to do besides thanking the sponsors is thank all the candidates that run for office, no matter which side of the aisle they're on. I know me and Gary see each other quite regularly, and his grandson's got this little running game with me, but at parades and stuff. But it's a lot of work. It's hard on the families, and it's hard on everybody. So I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to do it. I don't think anybody's in it for the wrong reason. I think everybody's in it for the right reason. We just have different perspectives on where we need to go and what to do. So thanks to all the candidates. I am a 3-term state representative from St. Genevieve. Getting ready to wrap up. I've been on the Tourism and Natural Resources Committee, Fiscal Review, and Transportation. And in 2011, I was honored to be appointed to the Missouri Tourism Commission by Speaker Tilley, and have served on there since, and look forward to maybe doing that as I go to the Senate. I'll have to wait for Senator McKenna to move on. He's the senator from this area on there, so I don't want to bump anybody. I'm a member of the Sportsman's Caucus, the Rural Caucus, and secretary of the Democratic Labor Caucus, and also a member of the Democrats for Life. I supported the Governor's Jobs Act, and last year we had to come back in special session to get that done, and I thought that was a disappointment to spend taxpayer dollars to pass something we should have done instead of making it harder for people to vote and making it harder trying to prove, which is a federal issue, that make sure the president is a native of the United States. We should have been working on jobs bills and not have to go back and spend taxpayers' monies to do that. I have a proven record as A rating with the NRA consistently. I've been pro-life rated and have been endorsed since I've been in office and continue to hold that. I think the excessive majorities in both sides of the building have caused more gridlock than partisan gridlock. I think most of the folks in the House that I worked with have done a good job working across the aisle. But whenever you have super majorities in both sides of the building and a little bit of ego, I think that's caused more gridlock the last year or two than the partisan gridlock. Ideology is fine, but at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to our citizens, and we should be delivering to them. What we need, I think, is responsible government, and as I call it, the ABCs of government, good government, and that is accountability, balance, and common sense back in the state Senate. Our citizens voted for a citizen legislature. You heard that earlier. And that doesn't mean all lawyers, and there may have been a few more than 6 because we got more than that on our side. Not all businessmen, but blue-collar people. And we need a cross-section of everyone in the state, including workers and working families. I appreciate your time tonight and appreciate everybody coming out. And I thank you and ask for your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
For those of you keeping time, we have gone just a little over an hour. I think it's gone pretty quick. For those of you that really, really want to know, as of right now, St. Louis 1, Cincinnati 0. I love it when they talk about blue collar, because I'm a blue collar, white collar redneck guy from Jefferson County. All right, up next for the state senator in the great state of Missouri, Republican Gary Romine.
I do appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening and thank all those that were involved in putting this together. It's just a great opportunity to have the citizens involved in this process and all the candidates. Just like Joe said, it's very, very time consuming. It takes away from the family, and we need to lift up and encourage all those that are willing to take the time from their lives to run for the office. And most of all, hope everyone has in their hearts and their mind that we are running for these positions as an opportunity to serve. That's what this position is all about, is serving the constituency of this district. The 3rd district is made up of Iron, Reynolds, St. John, Washington, and St. Francis County, and the bottom third of Jefferson County. It's a big district. I've put about 30,000 miles on my vehicle since January and have been running very hard to get my name out there and introduce myself to as many folks as I can. My name is Gary Romine, and I am running for the state Senate. Tell you a little bit about myself and that my wife and I have been married for 31 years. We have 5 kids and 10 grandkids. I earned an Associate's Applied Science degree from Three Rivers Community College. I earned a BSE, Bachelor of Science in Education, in Marketing and Distributive Education from Central Missouri State. I enjoy playing golf, fishing, hunting, and playing bass guitar at the Nazarene Church. The question is, if elected, how can I or will I help this county and this community? If it's education that's important to you, then you should know that I am a former teacher and that I also serve as president of the Board of Trustees for Mineral Area College. I will fight for the value of our public education and what it means to this community. An educated workforce is a successful workforce. I have been endorsed by the Missouri School Administrators Association. If it's labor that's important to you, you need to know that my dad is a heavy equipment operator, Local 513. My son is an air traffic controller at KCI. My son-in-law is electrician, Local 1. I have several uncles that are operators and iron workers as well. I understand the importance and the value of management and labor working together to make sure this great state goes forward. Economic development and jobs are important to all of us. My wife and I built our company to 20 stores. We have been in business for over 24 years. We sold 11 stores a few years ago and partnered up with some folks, and we opened a bank in St. Genevieve, Missouri, where I currently served and have served since the inception as chairman of the board of that bank. I know what it takes to grow a business, to be able to create jobs. I have been endorsed by the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Missouri National Federation of Independent Businesses. If faith is important to you, then I want you to know that I believe that this country was founded on a belief in God. I have been endorsed by Missouri Right to Life. To close, I have experience in Jeff City as a state Senate staffer. 2 of those years I served as chief of staff in the state Senate. I understand what it takes to be on the Senate side of the House and understand the process it takes to get legislation passed. But also, most importantly, my primary job was listening to the constituents back home, whether it's individuals or businesses, county government, city government, whatever it takes to get the job done. We have to go through the bureaucracy and red tape. And it's good to have someone that understands for you to be successful, we have to serve you and facilitate getting through that process. My life experiences have prepared me to serve you in this position, and I look forward to your support on November 6th. I ask for your vote, Gary Romine, State Senate. Thank you very much.
All right. Ed, if you want to come on down. You know, a lot of people have talked about the economy, Jefferson Growth Association. We've had a lot of struggles. I do want to take my hat off to Mr. Dan Govro. Honestly, without his leadership, his drive, his everything, his staff, we probably wouldn't still be in business. Not only is Jefferson Growth Association still here, we are thriving, as you can see. We always need more members. If you are an individual, we got individual memberships. If you're an elected official, we got memberships. And of course, if you're a business or organization, we've got memberships. Up next, for the Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, Mr. Ed Martin.
No? Okay. About 10 years ago now, maybe a little bit less, I went to one of those dinners that happen so often. I think it was either a community group or a political event, I'm not sure which, but I met a young man who was a military veteran who was working at Chrysler. And we became friends, and over the years we stayed close, and my family grew. My wife Carol and I, we now have 4 children. Madeline is 8, Edward is 5, Mikey is 3 and stays up all night, and Helen is 8 months old, and when Mikey's not awake, Helen's awake. So we're very busy, but we're very blessed. And but this young man I met, and I got to know him and his family, and we flash forward a few years later when the federal government decided in their infinite wisdom that they would bail out Chrysler
And yet just a few months later, they would close down the Chrysler plant. And if you watch across our state and across this region, and especially across Jefferson County, you saw the loss of jobs and the related jobs and the sense of weight. I thought you were addressing the things that we needed. I thought you said you were going to come help us. And since that time, I've been in touch with this friend. We stay in touch mostly through the internet. But there's a sense that nothing that those people that are in power say is something that they're really going to do. There's a sense that, there's a lot of talk, and there's a lot of career politicians who spend their time promising things and talking about things, and they neglect what the reality is for most of us. Well, my name is Ed Martin, and I'm running for Attorney General because I think we need to do better. And I think in January 2013, whatever party you are, whatever position you have at whatever station in the government, national, state, local, whatever it is, we need to stand up and dramatically change how we've been doing things. In Missouri, we have a very rich history of leaders who have stood up over the course of time. They start with some of the famous Democrats, guys like Harry Truman. They come down through and you talk about different leaders, men that stood up like Danforth and Ashcroft and others. And they said, and even, by the way, a guy named Gephardt, who I would venture to guess would have never let Chrysler close a plant after they took all that billions from us and leave the jobs away from leaving our community. Well, we need some leaders that are going to stand up and fight back for the future of the country. And Attorney General is a very important position. And many people that don't know, and the viewers and listeners, the Attorney General is an important position. There's sort of two broad positions, broad aspects of the job. Number one, by our design in our Constitution, our Attorney General is supposed to stand up for we the people. We the people give some of our sovereignty from ourselves to the federal government, but we do it through the states. It's a very important distinction. It's the United States of America. It's not just America. And when we do that, we ask these leaders to stand in the gap between the federal government and we the people. When they go too far, they stand up. That's why there's Danforth v. and there's Ashcroft v. These are cases. There's even Nixon v. When he stood up. You won't see much of my opponent, Koster versus, because when it's come to the federal government intruding in our lives, he's been absent. And I don't worry about his record. I worry about what's happening to us. If you look at Obamacare, Obamacare went too far, and Missourians were left out. As 26 other states joined forces to say, you've gone too far, we have concerns, Missouri was left out. The EPA has dramatically changed what it's doing, and I just came from the Farm Bureau across town here and talked to farmers about what's happening in their communities. They've gone too far. The Department of Labor, the Department of Education. No matter what you say about this administration, we know this. When it comes to the protection of our Second Amendment rights, I'm talking about the national administration, we haven't seen people standing up. We have a scandal that's brewing, and we have a UN that's contemplating ammo registration, which is the same thing. So this is a moment in American history. By the way, someone mentioned education. Education, the federal government's gone far too far into intruding into our own sovereignty. So the first part of the job is the Attorney General is supposed to stand up and fight back against those intrusions. The second part of the job is that the Attorney General is supposed to be the legal leader for our community. Here in Jefferson County, we've seen again an explosion of meth. Nationally now, Missouri leads the nation again, and Jefferson County is at the center of that. Why? Well, in part because the problem is so significant, but also because we don't have legal leaders like our Attorney General who cares to address these issues. We have heroin killing our kids, young people, killing them in Festus and in our communities. Where's the leadership? Our two cities in this state, two urban centers, are experiencing incredible gun crime rates that are unenforced, that are unprosecuted. Why? Because the victims are intimidated, and the people that are witnesses are intimidated. These are what legal leaders need to do. This is a very important moment, and we need an Attorney General who's going to stand in the gap on these important issues, and who is also going to stand and make sure that he's the legal leader for our state. The race is just about 35 days left, and for those viewers tuning in and for those of you here, we're in the stretch run. I was speaking to some of the other candidates who are running statewide. It's exciting at the same time as it's exhausting. I can tell you that in our family, we have a countdown on the calendar counting back to November 6th, and I don't know if the kids are as happy as my wife that we're down under 40 days, but we're down to 40 days. And I just would encourage everyone here and everyone listening to really try to get engaged now. Try to find out more about the races. My name's Ed Martin. I'm running for Attorney General because I think my combination of having practiced law in Missouri, as well as being involved in public service, whether it's fighting for elections and access, as well as fighting against voter fraud or working for the state government, I think the combination makes it unique. But more importantly, I just say this. Come January of 2013, we're at a moment in our life as Missourians and as Americans where our leaders need to stand up. They need to recognize the shared values that got us here, that came from a creator, was given to each of us: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. You've heard them. And then when you take those shared values and we wrote a constitution and we built the rule of law, and America's a land of opportunity because of that. And that's what's at stake at every level. My name's Ed Martin. I would welcome your vote and your support on November 6th, and I thank you for your time.
All right, next up, if we could go ahead and have Jason Kander and Cynthia Davis come on down. I want to remind everybody about our sponsors again: Eagle Bank, First State Community Bank, Bank of Bloomsdale, Doe Run, Govro Land Service, Comtree, Jefferson County Labor Club, Bob Kister, Attorney at Law, and let me get my cross pin out here from Metro Off Supply, Hallmark Cards and Gifts, and check that off real quick. All right. Is Jason here? Okay. All right. Okay. So what we're going to do next is going to be the Secretary of State, running as a Democrat, Mr. Jason Kander.
Thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it. So I'm Jason Kander. I'm a former Army captain. I'm a state representative, and I'm the Democratic nominee for Secretary of State. So before I tell you why I think this office is so important, I want to tell you a little bit about how I came to view public service the way that I do. My mom was a juvenile probation officer. My dad was a cop who later ran a security company. So we didn't get away with anything at all in my house growing up. And they taught me that courage means doing what's right, not what's easy. I grew up in this house where my folks took in kids whose own families were struggling. And they became my brothers. When I married my high school sweetheart, my groomsmen were all my brothers, my foster brothers, for lack of a better term. And so that was the lesson they taught us. There was no conversation about whether or not to do that, whether or not that was the right move. It's just what we did because it was what was right. It wasn't easy, but it was what was right. And so I remembered those lessons after 9/11, when so many of us felt like we had to do something after the terrorist attacks. So for me, I enlisted in the Army National Guard, and I joined ROTC, and I asked to go over to Afghanistan. My job over there was to investigate corruption in the Afghan government. And then I came home, and I ran for the state legislature, and I got elected. And I got to Jefferson City, and I found out that there was plenty of anti-corruption work for me to do in Jefferson City, too. And so that's why I've spent so much time on campaign reform and on ethics reform during my time in Jefferson City. I worked with the other side of the aisle to pass the first major ethics reforms in Missouri in over 20 years. And I'm very proud of what I've done in the legislature, even while serving in the minority party. I've worked with authorities to prevent kidnapping during custody battles. I've taken Missouri's human trafficking laws from some of the weakest to some of the strongest in the country. I worked closely with Governor Nixon while I was on the Budget Committee to balance our state's budget without raising taxes, and I eliminated an expensive no-bid contract that was in our state budget. Whether in my day job as an attorney, my service as a state representative, or my time in the Army, I have never forgotten the lessons that I learned from my parents growing up, which is that courage means doing what's right, not what's easy. That's why I think I'm uniquely qualified to be Missouri's next Secretary of State. And there are great differences between myself and my opponent, who's not here tonight. But I don't have that much time to tell you all the differences, so I've picked one. There's one that I want you to remember. And that is that my opponent, Shane Schoer, filed a bill earlier this year that would have made it nearly impossible for folks serving overseas to vote. His bill would have gotten rid of absentee voting by mail. Now, there were 320,000 Missourians in 2008 who voted that way. I'm sure a lot are in this room tonight. And almost 12,000 of them were military personnel. 2 years before that, I was in Afghanistan on Election Day. And if it hadn't been for an absentee ballot, I would not have had the opportunity to participate in the democracy that I was there to protect. So that's why I led a bipartisan coalition that stopped that bill this year. Shane Schower is now running for the Chief Elections Officer position, and so am I. And I've got friends who I trained, soldiers who I trained, who are still serving over there. These are people that I care about a lot. And I'm not about to let someone take away the very rights that they're risking their lives for. So that's what I want you to remember about this race tonight. I really appreciate that y'all had us out, and I want to echo what Joe Fowler and others have said, how much I appreciate all the candidates being able to be here and all the hard work that they put in. Jefferson County is an incredibly important county, and I know Jefferson County will turn out and it will vote. And so I appreciate so much that you all are here and that you all have given us the opportunity to speak with you. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Now up next for the Lieutenant Governor running with the Constitution Party, Miss Cynthia Davis.
It is an incredible honor to be in Jefferson County. And I have to say, some of my very best friends are from Jefferson County. So this is it's like a homecoming, and you know who you are. I want to introduce myself. I'm Cynthia Davis, and I am running for Lieutenant Governor. Where my story started was my husband and I live in St. Charles County. And what's special about Jefferson County, which I think some of you can appreciate particularly, is you've had a political shift going on. We've all watched it, and it's very confusing, and people are looking at this and saying, is it a Republican county or is it a Democrat county? And the answer is, there's a point where both parties have failed us. And we have to be honest enough to look at what is going to get us where we need to go. So for my husband and I, we were living in O'Fallon, and he was gone all the time, and we said, what's something we can do where he can be home and we can provide something O'Fallon doesn't have that it needs that would raise the moral fiber of the community? And the answer was, let's open up a Christian bookstore. So we opened a Back to Basics Christian bookstore. If any of you ever get to St. Charles County, you need to come see us, because we're still there and we get it. But I'll tell you what's unfortunate is the crisis our city had a few years after we opened up. And the city fathers made a decision to shut down Main Street during the Christmas season. And that created a huge hardship on the business community. And that there's a principle that works every time. It's if you ever want to bring people together, you take bread off their table. And in the crisis of not being able to get customers to our stores anymore, we formed a business association. We came together and asked, what can we do to take some responsibility for correcting the bad decisions our government's making? So they appointed me to be the chairman of the legislative committee, and that was fine. I said, what do I do? They said, go to all the Board of Aldermen meetings and report back to us every month on what they're doing to ruin our lives next. And I said, I can do that. So I did. For a solid year, I went to all the Board of Aldermen meetings, and I came back to the business community every month, and I gave my report. But after doing it for a year, at the end of my report, I said, ultimately, we cannot fix city government till we fix the people in those seats. And that's when somebody said, well, then why don't you run? And I thought, okay, I will. I did. I won. I won 5 terms on that city council. And it was great. But then when I got in city government, I realized the real problem was state government. So after serving 4 terms in the Missouri State Legislature, I realized the real problem is federal government. But you know what? The truth is all governments have the same problem. They tend to be greedy and seek to extract the maximum from the people. And the elected officials get elected, and then their first job becomes, how do I get reelected? And they forget why they're there in the first place. So that's where I began. I want to tell you something encouraging, though. I am winning. I'm winning straw polls. People want to hear the positive message that you don't have to take the same old status quo anymore. We have things better. We have better choices. And when people are left with the freedom to pick who really best resonates with their values, we are on top. So let me tell you what I won. This. When you're in the legislature and you don't dole out favors to the special interest groups, you don't get a lot of awards. But I won one award, and it was for being the most constitutional legislator in the state of Missouri. Thank you. Okay, thank you. And you know what? It's easy to win a granite plaque like that. Anybody can do it. You just have to vote constitutionally. It works every time. So, I want to tell you while I was there, though, if you want to know what my philosophy is, I made my mark by filing the Healthcare Freedom Bill, the Firearms Freedom Bill, and the Light Bulb Freedom Bill. And I can't tell you in such a short amount of time what they all did, but I just want to say it's all about freedom. And that's what made America great. And that's what's still going to make our state great, is people who love freedom and want to do the right thing by their citizens. So Missouri Right to Life has given me their exclusive endorsement, and that means the other choices are not endorsable according to their criteria. And what's special about this is actions speak louder than words. Now, my husband and I have 7 children, same mom, same dad. Have to explain that. But what's funny is that until we get this, actions speak louder than words, we're going to get duped time and time again and again and again. And I call it, you've heard of battered spouse syndrome, I call it the battered voter syndrome, because there are plenty of people who are going to stand here in front of you come election time and tell you what they think you want to hear just to get your vote. And then after the election, it's meaningless. And it doesn't count for anything. It's all about how do I get, how do we stick under the caucus? And the caucus is what's not serving us well. So the beautiful part about me running for lieutenant governor is I am in a position to hold them all accountable. And that is what we desperately need. Now, some of you sitting here tonight might be asking one question. What does the lieutenant governor do? Well, the fact that you have to ask should tell you right there that what's been going on has not been much. And what we're going to see is somebody who's willing to raise the iron shade and let the sun shine in, because that's what I do well. I do it exceptionally well. I write a newsletter every week, and you can sign up for it on my website, which is votecynthia.com. You can also donate to me, because, when you don't sell your soul, you don't get all the big donations. And I need you. And we all need each other. And you will be very happy with what you see with me as the lieutenant governor. So if none of you have ever had an alcoholic in your family, let me give you some thoughts to take home with you. The first step is to admit we've got a problem. The second step is to call on a higher power for help. And the third step is, let's give them an intervention. I will be the designated driver in the room full of drunks. Thank you.
I should have let her go first.
Oh, okay.
All right, so you were a state rep?
Yes, with some of the people in the room, they can vouch for me.
But were you a Democrat, Republican, or Constitution
I was
Party?
Republican.
All right,
yes,
just didn't know.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Give her a big hand. That was... I thought Ed Martin woke me up. Boy, I tell you what, that was something. And it's great to see a fellow retailer. It's official. Everybody listening on KJFF, everybody watching on JCTV, and everyone here now knows 2. We're a dying breed, aren't we? There's not many retailers. Incidentally, I purchased the business from my father 13 years ago. He's here, Roger Hagan. He started the business in 1980. Give it a big hand. I invited my mom. She goes, I've been listening to you talk for 50 years. So she stayed home too. Dave, come on down. Next up is for the governor of the great state of Missouri, running as a Republican, Mr. Dave Spence.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be in Jefferson County. I'm a little different. I'm not your typical politician. I'm the candidate that has stepped into the fire to change our state. I've been running a business for 27 years. Started out with 15 employees, and when I stepped down in December to run for governor, we had 860 employees in manufacturing in the United States. My roots were pretty humble. In 1985, after our family business went out of business, I had a choice. I could cry about it or do something about it. Did a little of each. I found a little small business for sale in downtown St. Louis, near all Malincrot, the scrap yards, not the prettiest part of town. It was making plastic bottles for pharmaceutical companies, like the names of Rexall, that are no longer in our town. 12 banks said no, and the 13th one said yes. And in 1985, I set out to rebuild my American dream. So through 27 years of hard work, doing the right thing, personal guarantees, passing up paychecks, put his employees' children through school, 401k, dental, vision, profit sharing, helping out when people were sick, when there were fires, and people lost their homes, helping people keep their homes, and getting their kids through colleges and paying their bills or medical expenses. We did the right thing, and we built a great American manufacturing story. And I followed my American dream. I stepped down in December after selling the business in September of 10. I just don't think you're destined to do something for the rest of your life. I started looking at our state and our country through my kids' eyes. I have 4 kids, 14 to 20. My son's a junior in college. My daughter just went to the University of Alabama. I still can't get rid of the roll tide. I wake up in the middle of the night, roll tide, roll tide. And I thought, unless we change some things, our kids and grandkids won't have the opportunity to stay in our state. We will be getting on a plane for christenings. We will be getting on a plane to watch our grandkids being birthed, for T-ball games, for baptisms. And I thought, you know what? And it's just not my kids, it's your kids and grandkids as well. This is where we find ourselves. We are dead last in the country in job creation since 2008. Dead last. We are 48th in economic development in the last 10 years. We have 1 in 6 Missourians on food stamps. We have 50,000 kids in unaccredited schools. It would fill up Busch Stadium with a waiting line outside. We're at 0% growth for the 3rd year in a row. Even Illinois, to our east, with 3 governors in prison and a $15 billion deficit, grew at 1.3%, and we're at 0% growth. I'm not a politician, and I've never run for office, and that is my best attribute. You know why? Because if career politicians and political knowledge, if those are the results, we need to change our business model in Missouri. Plain and simple. When you're 50th or 48th, and the only thing we're number 1 in is meth production, that is not winning results. Those are not winning results. That is not momentum. And that is not success. And as a proud 7th generation Missourian, and I'm sure a lot of you are Missouri natives as well, and your ancestors were born here, your kids would like to stay here, it's time to come together. It's time for leadership. It's not time for bickering. It's not time for finger pointing. And we've got to end the blame game. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or who knows what you are, it is time to come together as 5.9 million Missourians, 114 counties. It shouldn't be all politics all the time. I got into this to change our state. I got into this because I wanted to change the conversation of I'm right, you're wrong, into how can we do it better. It's time for all of us as Missourians to put our differences aside, raise the level of discussion. We shouldn't have to have this reach across the aisle. Why is there an aisle? Think about it. We want to point out what's wrong versus what's right. But this is the time, as parents, as grandparents, as sons and daughters of proud Missourians, to have a leader that tells the truth, good news or bad news, tell the truth. We're ready for it. We're ready for honesty, we're ready for integrity, and we're ready to stop politics as usual. I'm different. I've been in the real world. I've been a CEO of a company, and I led by example. I'm a good family man, a good Christian. It's time to change the conversation and get Missouri going. I want to be the leader that takes Missouri from a laggard to a leader. I'm here. I know Jay Nixon was born in DeSoto. I know it. He's not here. I am. He doesn't even own a house anymore. The only house he has is the governor's mansion. For 26 years, he's been living off us as taxpayers. That's not what our founding fathers intended, and that's not what I intend to do. I want to change our state, lead by example, work hard, surround myself with good people, regardless of political affiliation, and get Missouri going. And that is why I want to be the next great governor of the state of Missouri. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to move on to the congressmen. So if I could get Glenn, Eric, and Jack just to come on down. There are a few things on the ballot. We discussed a little bit of this last week. A lot of you have probably already received this in the mail. Countywide, we do have 4 issues. Constitutional Amendment number 3, Proposition A, Proposition B, and Proposition E. Read over these. They're kind of important. I won't go into them tonight. Again, we got the big car show coming up here at the beautiful campus of Jefferson College. I'd like to encourage everyone to come out this Saturday. It's from 9 to 11 to promote another event. They got the Balloon Glow going on out at the Festus Airport. And that is also an incredible event. Last I checked, the score is 1-1. St. Louis won, Cincinnati won. All right. So, can I, is this it? There we go. All right. So we're just going to start off with Eric Mayer because I can see him and he's got his name badge on. All right. We went, come on up. We went from having 1 congressman in Jefferson County to now having 3. So if you guys could kind of explain what part of Jefferson County you guys cover. We probably don't care about the rest of the state, so. Eric Mayer.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. Let me give you a brief history of myself. I come from Camden County, Missouri, and I've been a resident there since 1971. I've been married to my wife, Shirlene, for 25 years. We have 2 grown children, my daughter, Lauren, and my son, Max. I've been in small business for 30 years. I've managed my current small business for 10 years. Politically, I have run for presiding commissioner of Camden County. Times are tough right now. Men and women have to settle for jobs that don't make ends meet and are struggling from paycheck to paycheck to provide for their families. I'm a small business owner in the state of Missouri. I've had my ups and I've had my downs, and I've had experienced economic hardships probably like many of you in the audience. We need to send a representative to Washington that will create jobs and invest in the infrastructure of the state of Missouri and the United States. The present Congress that you have has failed to meet your needs. We must come and find the common ground in the middle of this partisan divide. Let's get the job of governing done. Let us set aside our personal needs and do what is best for the country and the 3rd Congressional District of Missouri. So how do we do this? Through job creation. Job creation is done by small businesses. Through reforming and simplifying the present tax code, we create an atmosphere for thriving small businesses. Social Security and Medicare can be managed in their forms if we have a thriving economy. So, these are the three priorities for the country and the 3rd Congressional District of Missouri. Number 1, job creation. Number 2, tax reform. And number 3, stabilizing Medicare and Social Security. We will use the proposed plan set by Bowles-Simpson's committee as a platform to reduce the deficit and bring the budget in line. Healthcare still needs to be reformed to contain the ever-increasing cost of that health care. But I do support the reform that we have. We need to take that and reform it some more, much like when Medicare was institutionalized in 1964. So let us come together and break the dividing line that has kept us from making progress. I will work hard and smart for the country and Missouri's 3rd Congressional District. In closing, I think you have a clear and distinct choice between myself, Eric Mayer, and my opponent, Blaine Luchtemeier. Mr. Luchtemeier has voted party line 85% of the time. He has not met in the middle and compromised. He has blocked progress in your district and in the country. So I ask for your support on November the 6th. Thank you, and God bless you all, and God bless America.
All right, next up, from the 2nd District, Glenn Keenan.
Good evening. The 2nd District encompasses the northern part of Jefferson County, starting in Arnold, going below Fenton, and coming out at High Ridge. I think I can speak for all the candidates, or at least all the Democratic candidates. We did not draw these lines. These lines are the result of what happens when you have a computer that can push buttons and draw lines. The cities of Crystal City, Festus are split, Arnold is split. We have a lot of problems with these lines, but they are what we've been dealt. This is my first run for politics. I spent 17 years running Circle of Concern, a community charity based in Valley Park, helping people from Fenton through West St. Louis County. What I learned there was that an awful lot of people are having a hard time through no fault of their own. What we've been seeing for many, many years is a big change in our economy, which we tried to ignore until the recession hit. And that is a loss of manufacturing jobs, a loss of high-paying blue-collar jobs, an exodus of good-paying jobs in general out of the St. Louis area. You may have heard the news this morning. Charter is moving their executives out of St. Louis. Now, they are giving us 300 more call center jobs, but the people who make the big money are leaving. And among their reasons, they said, were transportation problems getting in and out of St. Louis and our talent pool. That's a nice, polite way of saying they don't think we're producing the people we need in the metropolitan area to fill these jobs. As you're going to hear from other people tonight, you've heard tonight, jobs, jobs, jobs. The greater St. Louis area, especially Jefferson County, needs more job creation. But at the same time, we can't get caught in the trap of just making any old job. We need to target full-time jobs with benefit, jobs that pay $15 an hour or more. And when people are willing to create those jobs, we need to help them. We need to offer them things such as specific training through places like Jefferson Community College here, St. Charles Community College, and St. Louis Community College. We need to help the employers get the skills they need and the people we need. We need to get jobs in this community so that our kids aren't leaving. My daughter went to Des Moines for college on a scholarship. 5 kids from St. Louis area who went up there with her.
She is the only one who came back to a job in the St. Louis area. When I was in North Dakota a few years ago on vacation, it happened to be about the time the schools were letting out for the summer. A young man was talking about his high school graduation. I asked him, what's the big present up here for high school graduation? He said, luggage. We don't want that happening here in Jefferson County in the St. Louis area. Running a charity, what I saw too, was a lot of families who were either driven to bankruptcy or put into a horrible financial situation by a need for health care. Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to call it, it is not perfect. But it will allow millions of Americans to get access to doctors on a regular basis. The biggest thing that concerns me, having worked in a food pantry, is seeing all these people who have jobs and cannot get health insurance. That is a problem we have to fix. It's not going to be easy. It is going to take years and years of work, and it's going to involve sacrifice, and it's going to involve some changes. But it's the right thing to do. Right now, Americans are spending more than any other civilized country on health care, but our results are no better than people spending half as much. Another thing we have to consider is government is always going to have issues with money. I'm a big proponent of smart spending. What that means is, first of all, we get a good value out of every dollar we spend. Right now, for example, we're buying F-35 fighter planes. They look great, they just don't fly very well, and they cost $300 million apiece. Meanwhile, there are fewer people working at Boeing today than there were 20 years ago, and yes, F-18s are expensive, but they work. I got an email a few days ago from a gentleman whose son is in the military, and he's retired military himself. He was complaining that his son complains that right now the weapon we give our soldiers, the M4 carbine, is a modified M16 with a 14-inch barrel, which his son says is the wrong gun 80% of the time. It's too short of a barrel and too small of a bullet for when they're in the mountains of Afghanistan. It jams in the sand, and in close quarters in cities, it's too big. Yet our military will waste $300 million on planes that don't fly, but we won't spend an extra $1,000 so a soldier can have two weapons, one for city, one for country. Smart spending also means we know that, yes, deficits are bad. $16 trillion is a number I can't even conceive of. I kind of wish I had $16 trillion in front of me so I can get an idea of how many $1 bills that is. But the thing is, we have to get control of our spending, and we have to start bringing down the cost of government. At the same time, if we just yank a rail out in front of the train, we're going to have a lot of problems. We have so many Americans who depend on jobs, on Social Security, on Medicare. My grandmother passed away several years ago, and I got to handle her estate. My grandpa was a fireman, and when he retired, he had a good pension. When he passed away, my grandmother got 1/4 of that good pension and a little bit of Social Security. I've worked with families and seen people, especially widows, struggling to get by on less than $700 a month in this day and age. We can do better than that. The core Social Security program must be saved, must be preserved. We can do it. It's going to take work, but it can be done. The other thing to consider is that we are at a crossroads in our politics. As you've heard other people say, things have gotten very acrimonious. People are spending more time positioning and less time legislating. We need to get back to a situation where we actually work hard to get things done, to pass a budget, to get bills passed like the Farm Bill. Or right now, we do not have a transportation bill active. I got involved with this because of my years working with families and trying to make a difference one life at a time. I want to do better. My wife and I live in Oakville, been married for 33 years. We've been in our house so long we no longer get flyers about refi. What I want to do is spend a second career helping the people of the 2nd Congressional District. Thank you.
All right, well, we're going to just about wrap up. We've got one more candidate, but I did want to go over again all the different sponsors: Eagle Bank, First State Community Bank, Bank of Bloomsdale, Doe Run, Comtree, And ComTree, I tell you what, if you get a chance, go to ComTree's website. It is phenomenal, all of the different things that they do. Jefferson County Labor Club, I love their motto, united we stand, divided we beg. I actually am wearing my grandfather's ring. He was a machinist, highly skilled worker. My father-in-law was in the union. It's highly skilled workers. My brother-in-law is the master plumber. Very, very familiar with the organizations and all the training and continuing education that goes on. Also, Bob Kister, attorney at law, and of course, Metro Off Supply and Hallmark Cards and Gifts. And wow, these Yankee candles are just absolutely amazing. Again, thank everyone for coming out tonight. Running for United States Congress from the 8th District, running against Joanne Emerson, is Jack Russian. Thank you.
Well, I enjoy the opportunity to be here this evening, and I want to thank the Jefferson County Growth Association and Jefferson College for putting on this event. I want to thank all of you who are still in the room and listen to the rest of the candidates. I've enjoyed listening to everybody this evening. It's been good. I've enjoyed listening to everyone. A little bit about myself. I'm a practicing chiropractic physician for 31 years. I've worked 18 years in my trade association, which is the Missouri State Chiropractic Association. I've been 9 years on the Missouri State Board of Chiropractic Examiners. I'm currently the president of the Board of Chiropractic Examiners. So I have a lot of familiarity with healthcare. As legislative chairman for the Missouri State Chiropractic Association, I helped write several laws. I went and testified on many. And so I'm a little bit, familiar with the legislative process. And I always enjoyed going to the Capitol and working with the legislators. And I appreciate the ones who listen to me, even though they maybe not support my position. So listening is a huge attribute for legislators to have. For me to begin to speak, I'm going to get to some issues in a minute. I live in Poplar Bluff. I was born there. I'm married. I have 2 children. My son's at SEMO as a senior. My daughter is a senior in high school in Poplar Bluff. And we love pets. We got 3 dogs and 2 cats. The one thing is, when we talk about making decision and decision processes, as a physician and a person background in science, I believe in evidence-based for processes and thought processes and decision making. So I apply that to everything I do. I have rental properties along with my chiropractic practice, and I'm very blessed. I'm not running for Congress for income. I'm very blessed to make a good income. And with my rental properties and all, I'm very blessed to have a good income. But one of the things to discuss to delineate me from my opponent is, first of all, Joanne Emerson's been in Congress since 1996, and the vice president candidate, Paul Ryan's been in Congress since 1998. And they were both there front row and center during the Bush years. In fact, they voted for every spending bill that the Bush administration wanted. Now, first of all, that's contradictory to conservative fiscal responsibility because they did a lot of spending. Besides the spending, when the wars were decided that they were going to be done, in the first time in the history of our country, we didn't pay for wars by tax appropriation. We paid for World War I, World War II, Korean War, and the Vietnam War with tax appropriation. But not this time. For the Iraq War and the Afghan War, we borrowed money for that. We borrowed money and we passed it forward. We borrowed money and put it on a rotating charge card. And this came from people that are telling us today that they should be the custodian of fiscal responsibility for our country in 2012 and beyond. Now, this is where actions speak louder than words. Now, besides the spending, one of the things that they did is they took and they created tax cuts, which added to the deficit. In 2007, the Congressional Budget Office put out a large article and put out a pie chart that showed that 1/3 of the deficit was created by the tax cuts because they weren't paying for themselves. Now, the theory was, and the model is, that if you did tax cuts, that it would create an environment that would create economic growth, and that's where your tax base would come from. But truly, folks, that model has never truly worked. And when they had the best opportunity to try it, they went on a spending spree. And what that did is when you diminish the amount of revenue that comes into the federal government to meet the obligations that we have, and then you finance 2 wars, and you finance a Medicare drug plan that's not paid for, you are burning the candle at both ends with a blowtorch. And that's one of the things that contributed to the country going over a cliff economically at the end of 2007. Now, one of the things that makes this possible is there's many congressmen and senators that have signed the Norquist tax pledge. And the problem with that is you can't come to the table with fiscal responsibility and earnestly try to balance a budget or deficit if the only tools you have is to cut spending. Because we're going to have to increase revenues. And that's going to be done by a fair tax code, which has been mentioned tonight, and it's going to also be done by increasing some revenues. Now let's back up a bit. Let's go back and look a little further. So when Bush took office, he inherited the presidency from Bill Clinton, and there was a surplus. And at that time, there was a tax code and a tax level that the people of the United States could tolerate, and it worked. And they came in, and they thought they could invent the wheel or make a better mousetrap. And what they did is they did the tax cuts, and they went on a spending spree, and that's where we're at today. So for us to get away from that, we're going to have to do some things, and we're going to have to make some sacrifices. And I'm the first one to say we're going to have some spending. We're going to have some cuts for spending, rather. We're going to have some spending cuts. And we're going to trim the fat, and we're going to trim some of the lean. But when you cut so deep that you cut the artery, you're going to kill the patient. We can't have that. We've got to move forward with regards to those concerns, and we've got to take care of those things. The other thing is that with regards to the Norquist tax pledge or what was done during the Bush administration, you have to understand Ronald Reagan would not have been able to survive under that tax pledge. Ronald Reagan raised taxes 11 times in his 8 years. Ladies and gentlemen, there's only 2 presidents in the history of our country that didn't raise taxes while they were in office. One was Warren Harding, and he didn't even finish his term. He died of a heart attack. And the other one is George W. Bush, and he didn't raise income taxes at all in the 8 years. Now, the wisdom that Ronald Reagan had is he saw, it's kind of like bringing in a heavy fish on a low-pound test line. He saw that you had to balance your tax revenues with the concerns of the country. And he saw there were times when the tax cuts did not pay for themselves, and that's why he raised taxes 11 times, and he came back and cut them when it was appropriate. The other thing to discuss is, as far as jobs, when I came out and practiced in the 80s and into the 90s, there were an amazing amount of communities in the 8th Congressional District that had hat mills, hosiery mills, and shoe factories. Puxico, Advance, Oran, all these communities had that. They did not produce large paying jobs, but they brought tremendous amount of money in the community. There were people that worked there for 30 years and were able to pay off their home and raise their children and their families. And those factories are all gone. So yes, agriculture is the largest industry we have in the 8th Congressional District. It needs to be protected and nourished and grown, but we have to get manufacturing back to the 8th Congressional District, and that has been ignored. In closing, the last thing I'd like to say is that I believe that we need to have less obstruction, we have to have cooperation, and we have to work together to move forward. And we have to work for those things for our country to move forward and do good things. I appreciate the opportunity of being here. I need your support November 6th.
All right, we are right at exactly 2 hours. We didn't think we could do it that quick. Thank you very much. Good night, and don't forget to vote.